Welcome to self-discoverywisdom.com, formerly known as Self-Discovery Media. On these podcasts, you're going to hear people who speak from the heart. They've taken the journey in life. Many things have happened to them, but they've changed it to happening for them. And in their strength, their courage, they've discovered their abilities and their wisdom, and they are now sharing it here with you. Do enjoy each show. We bring it to you with love and knowing that it's going to help you on your journey of life. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Ignite Your Heart and Soul right here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my guest today is Brian Seth Hurst. What are we going to be talking about today? Well, what we are going to be talking about is igniting rather our heart and our soul. He says, whole is a profound journey of self-inquiry and transformation, guiding listeners to shift beliefs and discover their true selves. Well, that's the journey I think that we're on in this world right now. We're on a journey of a little of self-discovery, and which part of the world do we want to be in the sense of where's our integrity, where's our honesty, where's our authenticity? He says, in a world fulfilled with uncertainty, self-doubt, and constant change, how do we find the sense of wholeness and inner certainty? His book, Whole, is a profound exploration of personal transformation, guiding listeners through this journey of self-inquiry and belief shifts that unlock a deeper understanding of their true selves. Having faced his own life-altering wake-up, Brian shares the insights and tools that helped him and can help others redefine their narratives, release limiting beliefs, and cultivating resilience and self-awareness. With the release of the Whole audiobook and companion workbook, this conversation is more timely than ever, offering listeners the wisdom to move forward with purpose, authenticity, clarity, whether you are a personal crossroads or seeking fulfillment or simply ready to reclaim your power. We will help you to find that journey of becoming whole. And Brian has been around for a while, so he's a university philosopher. He wasn't in his university philosophy class the day that metaphysics was defined. Little did he know that the discovery that lies beyond the invisible world became a lifelong avocation. Balancing the study of life with business of life has led Brian to describe himself as a meta-practical man. Oh, I like that. Meta-practical man. I haven't heard that one before. That's pretty good. Welcome to the show, Brian.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Sarah. I'm looking forward to our discussion, given our pre-discussion, we started to get to know one another.
We were going down that rabbit hole. Hold on, let's save it for the show. This is something I'm preaching all the time to people is, what I'm always pointing out. We've got somewhere in society where we pay attention to parts of us. Medical will look at a part of us, trauma will look at a trauma of us, but who looks at the whole of us? And really what it is the imbalance of the parts of us that is making the whole of us feel disconnected. And we really need to embrace the whole of us, the whole flawsomeness of us, every part of us, in order to actually be able to move forward, as a whole person doing what we're here to do. And I feel rather like, I can't remember which movie it was, but you see the people getting shattered out and then coming back together. And I feel that's what we need, the magnetism of coming back together, but we are the magnet, aren't we?
I think when I think of whole, I think for myself, the title of the book, the story of the book is in the intro, which is, I had something fail. It was a huge failure. And they basically said, well, what am I going to do now? And I was sitting in an airport and I heard, give us 30 days. And at the end of 30 days, you will have a book and the name of the book will be Whole. And I did take more or less dictation for 30 days, but the title made sense to me because at the time I was a metaphysician on one side, an intuitive, and I was an entertainment executive on the other, and never the two shall meet. Interestingly enough, I had run to be the chairman of a major entertainment organization. And the Oppo research in the election found out that I had this whole career as an intuitive. And so it was like, wow, I can't keep those two things apart. If my big joke is I had to come out of the closet twice, first as a gay man and second as an intuitive. But I started to look when that title came through and I thought, you know what? I've had so many identities. You have so many.
Mm,
I'm someone's son, or was.
mhm,
My parents have passed. I'm an entertainment executive. I can be identified by my gender, my zip code,
mm,
my level of education or not my level of education, my career as a performer, my career as all these different identities, which seemed so separated
mm,
and isolated. And that event, the election, along with the failure of the project, the entertainment project, really left me in this place where I didn't have any choice but to be that person, recognizing all these different avenues of self-expression,
mm.
but not necessarily having to, I want to say, breathe air into various different identities and pump them up at different times.
Mhm.
So whole for me, and there's a quote in the book that one of the first quotes that came, which was to know whole is to know broken, and to know broken is to know that you've always been whole. I'm
Yeah.
paraphrasing.
I like that.
And the idea that I was larger than anything that had happened to me. I was larger than any of these identities, and I was large enough to contain all these. That was what whole began to represent to me. It didn't mean, honestly, Sarah, that I didn't have challenges to
Right.
bring those things together, that I didn't have to be at times super honest with myself,
Hmm.
especially in the ways I disrespected myself
Oh, yes.
and compromised myself and gave up who I was, thinking that I wasn't enough in order to please other people,
Hmm.
and starting to recognize the beliefs that I had taken on from my childhood, from my teachers about the way the world works. And it's funny because when I look back and I think of those things, it's like the little kid in me would go, well, that doesn't make sense, or that's not true. But I think a child's instinct in order to
Yes.
survive is to say, okay, well, on some unconscious level, in order to be safe, I have to play this game.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
so having to re-examine those beliefs in
Hmm.
order to be whole, in order to say, well, you know what? Yes, my father grew up poor, and yes, he has certain beliefs about scarcity and money and the way the world works. And yes, I bought into those beliefs, and now I have to change them. Or
Mm.
yes, my father felt persecuted in his life. That persecution led to a set of beliefs and things that he would say to us as children. And he was not an unkind man. He was not,
Right.
this is not a bad person. But those things going into your mind early
Hmm.
on as a child, you can never trust, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you didn't have any room to find that out for yourself. And so self-discovery was this quest. I mean, literally, I went to Israel to talk to Kabbalistic rabbis who told me I was too young and they weren't going to give me any information. And I was like, well, there's another system I can't get into, you know.
Who is
And
too young?
so, well, I understand it now, which is there's a point in your youth where most people are run by their egos. Like, this will make me
Mm.
rich. This will make me famous.
Right.
This will
Right.
make me, and then the principles that are in the Kabbalah are there to make a better world and to understand yourself at a deeper
Mm.
level, not to
Mm.
be used to,
Right.
or abused. And so
Yes.
uh, I understand that now. And I
Mm.
also understand that whole line, Sarah, about the right teacher shows up at the right
Yes.
time when the student is ready, that is accurate.
Oh, very,
And
very.
things that evolve. So although I don't feel that the information in the book is brand new by any means, the way it's phrased, there will be people for whom it resonates.
That's
And
what the point is,
yeah,
isn't it? There is
yeah,
no one size that fits all. I'm very much about here on Self-Discovery Wisdom of bringing about the orchestra, and each one of you are a different instrument. And, you can play beautifully on your own with your instrument and have a very profound effect. However, when you bring everyone together in the orchestra and they all agree to play harmoniously, respectfully together, it becomes transcending. So,
I have to agree. So I was watching the BBC proms, and one of my favorite pieces is the opening waltz from the musical Carousel, Rodgers and Hammerstein.
mhm,
And it is such a beautiful piece. And I've seen it and heard it played by other orchestras. But the conductor, I believe his name is Wilson, the way he was able to bring that harmony together. So there was
yes,
leadership in there. The way he was able, you could tell that each of those, this is me looking beyond what you're seeing.
yes,
You
exactly.
could tell that each of those musicians knew that their
Hmm.
contribution was so valuable.
Yes, yes.
And I have to tell you, I get the chills now as I talk
Mm,
about it. In listening to that, I
mhm,
have listened to it, I've seen it in the theater, but I have never been moved to tears.
right.
And this particular piece, as I was watching it and listening to it on YouTube, the dynamic, the harmony,
Mhm.
even the way the cameras focused on different musicians so you could see how committed they were to their contribution. So the
Yeah.
very thing that you're
You were
talking
seeing the
about,
feeling, right?
it produced a
Yes,
response,
yes,
a visceral response in
right.
me. I mean, yes, I am a person who cries at marching bands and chorus lines because I
Yeah.
see all those people working together
Hmm.
and being some part of something larger than themselves, and it
Yes.
inspires me. And so
Mm.
the marching band is doing all their stuff, especially Ohio State's marching band. They're
Hmm.
doing all their stuff, and you watch the coordination and the cooperation that it takes of these people contributing to something larger than themselves, and I start to cry. It's
I
just
mean,
the way it is.
right now there's a lot of videos and that I see of people that fallen down and who comes to pick them up. And that coincidentally that there's a camera on it. And somebody, oh, it's fake, it's all staged. I don't care if it's staged. It still moves me that somebody wants to make a little video spot of how stepping up and helping someone that's fallen and get back up, staged or not, capturing something in the moment or not. It warms my heart because one of the things I look at humanity and I go, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you so unkind to each other? Why are you so brutal to each other? Look how magnificent we are when we come from our heart, when we come from our soul, when we come from our spirit, and we're there to help one another. What a crescendo we can bring about, of love and passion and conviction and unison. But so whether it's fake or not, I don't care. The fact is, you're seeing good acts, and if it can stimulate other good acts, then that's what it's all about.
I've lived long enough to repeatedly see fear and its consequences in action.
Yeah.
I was a grief counselor during the AIDS pandemic
Mm,
um, with patients and their families, and being able to watch the impact of fear and how people were just separated by this terror.
yeah,
And and when the fear is extreme, then there's demonization.
of course, of course.
And when there's demonization, that separation, this is my contention, that separation from other people, us and them, also separates us from God.
Hmm.
And so when I look and I have people who've hurt me in my life, you know that phrase, hurt people.
Unfortunately,
And
yes,
I try and look beyond that for myself. But the first thing is it may feel personal, but it probably is not.
exactly.
And even when Jesus was on the cross, and this is from a Jewish kid, even when Jesus on the cross, he said, "Forgive them, Father, they know not what they do." He knew they
Exactly.
were afraid
Yes.
and that fear was dictating their response. So part of my journey and part of what I think is in the book is acknowledging fear
Hmm.
and being able to, I wouldn't say control it, I would say accept it and transcend it. to give
Yeah.
greater understanding. So it's me going, wow, that person is behaving that way, not because they're a bad person, but because they're afraid. They're afraid of not being loved. They're afraid of the loss of power. They're afraid of the loss of status. You know, there is a great verse in the Tao Te Ching, the 13th verse, and I'm going to paraphrase, but it's essentially seeking favor brings disaster.
Mm. Mm.
Because once you're going to compromise yourself to seek the
Yes.
favor, once you get it, your life is going to become about keeping it.
Yep.
And once you lose it, your life is going to become about getting it back.
Mm-hmm.
And as I have my own shift in my identity right now, I'm really starting to see how that has worked in my own life. So, for example, I was an entertainment executive. I had a lot of status. I did a lot of keynote speaking around the world. I traveled everywhere. And during the pandemic, to me, I was like, what is positive about this? Well, I had time to get myself back and get
Yes.
perspective and see what I
Yes.
didn't want and what I did want. And letting go of that guy,
Mm-hmm.
that identity, even though I didn't want that identity anymore, like I knew in my
Mm.
heart that is over.
Yes. End of chapter.
There
Are you
was
still writing it?
there was still one, there was grief
Mm-hmm.
because I was letting go. A part of me was dying. I was letting
Yes.
go of that identity. Two, there was the absence of community, even though,
Mm-hmm.
to be honest, there were a lot of people I didn't have a lot of respect for in the community that I was in. There still was that longing for it. And there was that moment of isolation where I'm not this, but I am me.
Mm-hmm.
And
And who am I?
and yeah, and how is that going to be expressed in the
Right.
world? And honestly, Sarah, that was the moment where I was like, boy, why am I here? I need to find
Mm-hmm.
out what
Mm-hmm.
my purpose is.
Exactly.
And that's where that, and I worked on it. It was a process, and the exercises are in the book.
Mm-hmm.
It was to get to that statement. I'm
Mm-hmm.
here to connect and engage authentically and inspire. And it's that connect authentically is in collaboration with divine
Yeah.
energy and God and inspire. And whether I do that through a book, whether I do that through an interview with you, whether I do that, I've returned to performing, to singing and doing a one-man show after 40 years, that people have said that was so inspiring. When someone says, "Oh, that was so inspiring," I'm like, "Okay, I did my job."
Exactly.
Not, "Oh, they think I'm good." It's I did my job. And
Oh, I
and
so agree with you there.
I've moved from I hope I've moved from preaching
Brilliant.
to sharing, to
Well,
just saying, hey, this is my experience. This is what I went through. And so the one man show is about kind of telling my life story. I grew up in a show business family. My mother was did her best to keep us very humble over that fact. We weren't allowed to talk about who we met or who our dad was or any of that. And my mother had amazing values. So did my dad in terms of respect for other
mhm.
people. So I took those good beliefs. I also
Yes,
took with
yes.
me. Um, but knowing that what I do in the world is an expression of my purpose,
Hmm.
it just being purpose driven instead of ego driven has made a
Yes.
huge difference in my life. Huge. Because now I'm not about getting your approval.
Right. You
I'm
don't need
about,
it.
hey, you're either going to take this or you're going to
Yes.
leave it.
Yes. That's your
And
prerogative.
if you take it, I hope that it inspires you and
Hmm.
moves you to discover the greatness about you. And by greatness, I mean the great things that you can accomplish and do, not greatness as in rich and famous, although
Right.
that might be the benefit.
Right.
But
Might be.
then the clients that I've had who achieve that, then my question to them is, well, this is great. What are you doing with it?
Precisely.
You know,
Mm.
what's your next move? And that's a lot of times why people will come for the coaching program, because they have come to this, is that all there is?
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
it's like, wait, my dream came true. Now what? You know,
Right. Right.
people know
What do
who
I
I
do with
am.
it?
I've
What do I do with it? Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm. I,
So,
you talk about inspiration, and I have a saying: inspiration begets invitation. When you inspire others, you're inviting them to believe that it's possible for them, right? Because that resonation, that inspiration that you've got from hearing somebody else's story, well, age didn't come into factor here. Sex or orientation didn't come into factor here. Economics didn't come in, and it's just about who am I and what have I got to contribute. All right. So that's the invitation, because every single one of us is here to pay rent and contribution. And that contribution is the essence of who we are, the accumulation of our life experiences, but the discovery of who we are today and what we're here to do. And then getting on and just doing it because you're compelled to, doing it because you love to. You love to see the light come on other people. And as you said, it's not another notch in the belt or another ego thing. It's like, oh, great. What are they going to do with that light? Because that's the invitation. Now it's their journey to seek, their journey to discover what their light is for. But that is, I think, what we really need in the world is that we don't need another rich man. We've got one right now, which, and I did a show a little while ago. I do my own shows every week where I talked about poverty versus wealth, and when you've got so much money and so much power, you're so paranoid and you've lost yourself so completely. When you've got people that are completely poor, they don't know the roof over their head or the food in their stomach, they're completely paranoid about the next meal. But the person that I have enough, I have enough. And what I truly have an abundance of is the enrichment and the abundance of life. That's really where the real economy says it's in life, in living it, in being exuberant, in sharing it, in forming those beautiful platforms of crescendo that other people want to get up and dance. And each and every one of us is that instrument. Each and every one of us has that inside of ourselves. And it's exciting to discover what it is and where it can go, despite what has happened to them. You revealed before the show that you've been molested as a child, and no child should ever go through that. I've interviewed people that have gone through the things that no human being should ever go through in their lives, ever. And yet they chose to go through the process of healing. They discovered their courage, they discovered their strength, they discovered their abilities, they discovered their why. And they realized that everything they went through has put them on that path to help others going through it. By being that beacon of light, you are not what's happened to you. You are what you made of it, the choices that we make. And that's the inspiration. That's the invitation. Don't stay stuck in the forest, panicked when hearing wolves all around you and they're nowhere around. Take that breath, listen to the trees. They will guide you. Listen to the wind, it will blow you forth. Be open and ready to receive. It's got you. Now take that step forward.
but there is that one, well, not one, but I think for me, it required stepping into the unknown.
Absolutely. Blind, deaf, and
And
dumb in order to see, hear, and feel.
that
Absolutely.
stepping into the unknown was terrifying. I can remember going to the first, I kind of asked the universe to send me some help to deal with
Mm-hmm.
the abuse because I hadn't dealt with it until my late 50s. And it delivered. Turned up there was this support group of gay and straight men who had been sexually abused as kids. And I went to that group and I was so nauseous driving to the first group, and I was nauseous every subsequent group thereafter because I knew I was going into unknown territory because I didn't remember everything that had happened. I knew some of it, but I didn't remember all of it. And that space was a very safe space. It
Mm-hmm.
was a what they call a self-regulating group,
Mm-hmm.
had moderators, but not professional therapists. It was just men sharing their experiences. And I cried for the first 2 hours of that. And at the end of that session, so to me, this was like going into the darkness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
At the end of that session, they came around and you were asked to give your impression of the session or what you experienced. And my revelation was that I had never trusted anyone again in my entire life.
Yeah.
Not my parents,
Mm-hmm.
not my sister who loved unconditionally,
Mm-hmm.
nobody.
Mm-hmm.
And that also extended to not trusting myself. How could this have happened to me?
Yeah.
I must not have known what
Mm-hmm.
I was doing. So there was a lot of self-blame. Fortunately, there's been a lot of research and exploration, and there's some really good trauma therapists
Yes.
in the world so that you can deal with that. But I think in the therapy of it all, the therapist said to me, because I have had a lot of different things happen in my life, I think basically because I'm so curious, sometimes I actually put myself in difficult
Yeah, yeah.
situations.
I hear you.
Um,
What's behind this door?
but but he said, yeah, I was the kid. If my mother said, don't touch that, I waited until she
Yeah.
wasn't looking. Yes, I
Yes.
touched that.
Yes.
But he said, do you recognize your resilience?
Mm,
And I had
mm-hmm,
never thought of that before.
mm-hmm.
And then I thought, you know, if I could survive all of that, what if that energy was shifted into thriving?
Yes.
What if I didn't have anything to prove in terms of my value and my worth anymore? What if I just accepted that that's probably true, that I am worthy and I'm valuable and I have things to offer and I don't have anything to prove? I call that the burden of proof.
Mm-hmm.
And when I set that down, a couple things happened. Number one, I was excited. Number two, I was scared
Yeah.
because I had all those patterns that we have. And there's a whole section in the workbook about,
Mm.
and the book about patterns and habits. I had all those patterns. And who was I without those patterns and those
Yes.
habits? And what were my choices going to be? And frankly, it can be overwhelming. It was to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I also think there was a willingness, and I have found this to be true, Sarah, in all my clients, whether people come for just one reading or session or they come into the coaching program, they are all willing to partner, to grow, to move forward. There's no one that has come to me that says, do it for me.
Right.
It's do it with me.
Exactly.
And what I started to recognize was I needed, whereas before I didn't trust anybody and I had built this wall, that wall had to come down so that I could be valued and supported.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I
It's a
could allow
scary
that
thing.
in.
It's a scary thing to bring that wall down. It definitely
Oh,
is.
I'm telling
Being
you,
being vulnerable is the greatest gift you can give yourself, but the scariest thing.
I still have that little switch and I can make that wall go up so fast.
Mhm.
It's like boom, because the kid in me says that's how you don't get hurt. That's how you protect
Yes.
yourself. That's this is a dangerous situation. Flip, boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom, 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 boom.
Yeah.
And it's like, it reminds me of the opening. There was a television show years ago called Get Smart, and he has to go through all these security doors, boom, 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 boom. And it's like I can shut those so fast
Yes.
that I have to be aware that that's what I'm doing. I'm like,
Mm,
oh, I flipped the switch. I'm afraid. Let me stop. Let me
mm,
experience my fear. Let me see where it is in my body. For
mm.
God's sakes, let me take a few breaths,
Yes.
and to begin to just say, wait, I am not in danger here.
Right.
I am not in control, but I am at choice.
Yes, 100%. I'd like you to dissect that a little more. A lot of people think that if you're not in control, you don't have a choice, right? And I think it's recognizing I can't control what is happening around me. I can choose what I do with it or how I react to
Yes,
it.
I can respond rather than
Yeah.
react.
Yes.
I think in its simplest thing, I can't control, Sarah, whether you're going to like me or not.
Right.
I can't control your behavior towards me or not. But I can decide whether I want to be in relationship with you or I do
Yeah.
not want to be in relationship.
Your
That is
choice,
my
your
choice.
prerogative. Yes.
That is my choice. When I look at the world and the things that are going on, yes, I can choose to be upset. I can choose to be at the effect. I can choose to worry. I can choose to let it pull every trigger in me. Or I can say, wait a minute, this is what's going on right now. is there something I can choose
Mm-hmm.
to do something about? There's a great organization called Braver Angels in the United States. And the point of Braver Angels is they recognize that politically people were split, families were
Mm-hmm.
not speaking to one another.
I know.
So it started out with them wanting to create an environment where these people could begin to speak and understand each other.
Mm-hmm.
And it's now extended into the political environment so that
They're probably
conversations
overworking at the present moment.
conversations are facilitated between right and left. And their contention is if people knew each other, there would be greater understanding. So for me, it was like, okay, wait, I I don't want to be on one side or the other. Now, when
Mm-hmm.
you say that, people go, you have to take a side.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, in some cases I do. In
Mm-hmm.
some cases, I am completely motivated against injustice and I have to take a side and I have to do something about it.
Exactly.
In this particular case, I am not taking a side. I'm taking both sides
Mm-hmm.
to bring them together.
Yeah.
That is my choice in that. Now, I could either be at the effect of people criticizing me for being in the middle or criticizing me for not being on the other side when they're on the other side.
You're the spoke there that's holding the scales, right? I mean, the scales just don't float up and down on their own. They need something to hold them. And so you're
Well,
there to hold the balance, to make
well, I
sure that
don't,
there isn't an extreme.
I actually don't see it as that significant, but what I see it is, you know what? If I am able to remain calmer, and that's basically, I mean, I am reading a book, Loving Kindness, right now by Sharon, I can't remember her last name, Zolberg, that is about Buddhist practice.
Hmm.
And it came to me because I was actually reading Kristen Neff's book, Self-Compassion. I'm big on other authors.
Yes.
I find myself recommending other people's books and forgetting to recommend my own. But I said, oh, I see this book title. I think I need to go look at this book. And this is about choosing love. And sometimes that is so challenging to do.
Hmm.
Um, you know, I'm sharing experience right now, and I don't think I'm in violation of anyone's confidentiality. So I was working as a producer in virtual reality, and I was asked to participate in this project that would allow incarcerated individuals to use virtual reality to experience the world that they were about to be released into so they wouldn't be triggered by it.
That's good. Mm.
The program has expanded now since I've participated in it, but we went inside a level 4 maximum security prison. And the people that are working within the prison system, they come from the outside. They're using creativity, writing,
Hmm.
performing to
Hmm.
help incarcerated individuals discover their trauma, discover where things come, to humanize their experience. And so my time is to come in on the on a different day when they have already experienced all of this. And now they're telling their stories. I again cried the entire time because the media has demonized these individuals.
Yes.
You see, you know, television programs that, just make these people out to be horrible and don't know
Throw
their
them away.
experiences. And here I
Yeah.
am sitting in this room with murderers
Hmm.
who have committed horrendous crimes and seeing their humanity and going, oh my God, I was freaking so wrong in the way I looked at this
Hmm.
because it was presented to me and I bought it because I didn't have any alternative.
Yeah.
Someone said this is the way the world works, and so here's this movie about it, and here's this
Hmm.
TV show about it, and here's this news report about it, and not seeing the humanity that was in the experience of these people. And as they shared their experience, my heart, I all I could feel was love for them.
Hmm.
These people who had done horrible, they were murderers.
Yeah.
They had
But how
taken
did they
someone
become
else's
that, though?
life.
That's the point. How did they become that? Is the remorse of their actions, and do they want to move beyond that?
That's why they were part of this program because you had to know what this program was going to be about, and you had to take the risk as an incarcerated individual to be a part of it. Now, on the other side, the woman that was administering the program, I mean, her heart is as big as all get out. And my question to myself was, do you have room in your heart for these people?
Yeah. Yeah.
Where's your compassion? So,
If we don't have compassion, empathy, understanding, and a willingness to be open, though I will say this, we can't go into the darkness to try and pull people out. What we can do is shed the light that they wish to walk towards.
well, it's just like healing. You can't,
Yeah.
as a healer, you can't absorb the illness of other
No,
people. You
no.
bring the light through you, and
Yes.
hopefully
That is what they're drawn to.
that works.
Yeah.
You just said something that went right through my mind, not pull yourself into the darkness. I can't remember what it was,
It
but
will come to you in a moment.
yeah. But the idea of that, oh, I know what it was. So I have discovered for myself that I cannot have compassion for others if I don't have compassion for myself.
Exactly.
That I
Exactly.
have to, when I'm in a I'm a human being, so I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
have all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm resenting someone or there's jealousy or envy or anger, I'm like, okay, I'm having these feelings. I'm having a shortage of compassion. It's like I could care less. I just want to put a pin in something so I don't forget. Um, so I stop and I say, okay, now I have to engage in self-compassion so that I can
Mm-hmm.
have more compassion. So I live in the fire zone
Mm-hmm.
in Los Angeles. I live in a community called Sierra Madre. Firefighters were able to stop the fire 1,000 feet before my home.
Wow. Wow.
Um, I have many friends that lost everything.
Ah.
And what I realized was there was actual limits to my compassion capability.
Mm.
Like I couldn't help everyone. I was
No.
overwhelmed
Yeah.
and also I had a bit of survivor's guilt because
Mm-hmm.
here I'm in my home and they don't have one. And it was like, how am I, I'm overwhelmed at the need. How do I help? And I started to realize I was getting overwhelmed by,
Yes.
and started to
The
realize that
magnitude of it. Yeah.
there is a limit to my
Yes.
compassion. So I meditated on it and it was like, you know what? I'm going to help these two of my friends,
Mm-hmm.
both of whom have lost everything. One who has family and children, one who's single and was just really putting her life back together.
Mm.
And it was like, this is where I can help.
Yeah.
And for one of them, for the woman, every time I thought of her, I would send a text heart.
Mm-hmm.
And she texted me last week and she said, you do not know how much that meant to me.
Yeah.
Just that you were thinking of me.
Yeah. You're
And
not
what I was
alone.
doing every time I said that heart, I was sending love. And I was
Yeah.
like, so, I have found ways right now to help in the larger reality, which is I've joined the fire council of our town, and I'm joining the community emergency response team to be trained to be able to help in emergency situations like earthquake and fires. But that was when I realized, okay, wait a minute, there's a limit to my compassion.
Yes. And that is nothing wrong in that. Like you hear people say, but I'm only one person and I can't make a difference. Or it's all just too overwhelming. I can't do it. And it's like, stop taking on the whole, right? What can you do that's within your parameters, within your oxygen that you can do? Because if you can empower one person's life and they can empower one person's life and so on and so on and so on, we're all better off. Don't try and heal everything. Now, I've done the seven word philosophy with Jerry Garadino, who's Italian, I can't say his name. And it really woke me up. And there's 7 words that are formed between the ages of 3 and 6 as a child. His show comes out the same week as you, or the week before. And it's the interesting thing about what the wake up was is the 7 words have traveled with me my entire life, but they were formed at that age. And one of them was rescue. right? And I've always been a rescuer. I see the possibilities in people. I know there's so much more, and I pull them out and help them become whole again. And I either stab you in the back or they just bugger off. I realize now I can't escape the word rescue, but as he says, it's not in the driver's seat anymore, right? So in a sense, I am still rescuing people, if you want to put it, by through this medium of bringing along the people that are there to do that job. It's not me to do that job anymore. It's to present the people that are doing that job. And I think there's some things we know, look, this is my tendencies. This is what I'm drawn to. This is what I always do. How can I do it in a way that isn't costing me or depleting me, right? And that I am empowered and vibrant enough to do at what level? It isn't all give it your all or give it nothing. No, it's like, what can I give it?
Mm-hmm.
What wind can can I blow there that, really propels the people forward? And then do what you can do. That's all we can ask of people is do what you can do. But if everybody gave an inch,
Mm.
right?
Yeah. You know, a couple things here. One is I always say, if I get down on my knees to help you get up off your knees, we'll have two people on our knees and we'll have a hard time getting up.
Yeah, especially at our age.
And then, hey, I do Pilates every week. I'm good. I'm
No,
good to
I'm not, I'm
go.
afraid. I
Um,
get down there, I need a crane to
no,
get me back
yeah,
up.
I had to get back in my body, so Pilates was my answer. Um, but if you're martyred, then
Mm.
you're not really able to continue on with the cause.
No.
So that's the first thing. The second thing is when I was writing the book or taking dictation, I was arguing the entire
Yes.
time. I was like, and my one comment I can totally remember was like, I don't see how this book is going to make a difference. How's this book going to get out in the world? How is this going to change anybody's life? Blah, 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 blah. And the answer I heard was, if this book only changes one person's
Yes,
life,
yes.
it's done its job.
That's the same way I feel about podcasts. How many followers do you have? And how many people listen to your shows? All those that are ready to hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
Well, with the book, it's so you deal with traditional. I know that you've dealt
Yeah.
with Philip, my PR guy, who is amazing. And you have all these expectations having been in the entertainment industry and how they have to build something up and launch it and do all
Yeah.
this stuff. Oddly enough, the day the book was launched was the day of the fire.
Ah,
So there was nothing I could do
no.
for a week, for
Yeah.
almost 2 weeks, because I had
Hmm.
to take care of what I had to take care of
Yes.
because that was tantamount. That was the thing. So then I got back to the gym and I was like, well, you know what? Let me listen to the audiobook because after I recorded it, I hadn't listened to it. And I was paying very much attention as a former voiceover artist
Right.
to doing the book properly. So I was in each moment, not taking the whole book as it was or a whole chapter. So I'm listening to it at the gym while I'm on the Stairmaster, and I am able to divorce myself from my own voice.
Hmm.
And I'm hearing this book and I'm going, oh my God, this stuff is really good. And
Yes.
then, and then I'm like, wow, not only is this information timely,
Yeah.
it's timeless. And that's when
Mm.
I got it, which was this book is going to be out in the world over the long term.
Hmm.
It's it, if it never attains bestseller status, that probably doesn't matter.
If it's a
That
plodder, right? If it's a plodder, it
it
keeps
just
plodding forward.
it's just this information because the original book was written in 2012.
Mm.
And to go back and see that information and see, wait a minute,
Hmm.
in the infinite wisdom of whoever was delivering the text, they knew
Yes, of course.
that it was universal. And, I'm thinking like, how many times do I recommend Creative Mind by Ernest Holmes to people? It was written in the 40s. How many times do I recommend
Hmm.
Saint Germain's text? How many times do I recommend U.S. Anderson's Three Magic Words, which was written in the 20s or 30s? And it's like these things, or the Seth book, Seth Speaks, The Nature of Personal Reality. This information has its place, has its value over time.
It depends on where people are in that what phase of life. They'll be ready to receive it when they need to receive it. And it isn't like, well, it fits everybody now and forget about everybody else coming up. They're going to need it when they're ready to need it, when they're at that crossroads of life. One of the books that had an impact on me was Who Moved My Cheese by Spencer Johnson, right? A simple book, but
I talk about that book a lot.
yeah,
I'm like, okay, so just for a laugh for you, at the gym, they got a new piece of machinery, right? So they moved everything around. And so I couldn't find anything. And then there was one machine that they had gotten rid of, which was a favorite of mine. So I walked up to the one of the trainers and I said, I just want to know who moved my cheese. And he looked at me like,
this guy's
what
out
are
to
you
lunch.
talking about? I said, look, there was this book called Who Moved My
Yeah,
Cheese, and it's just about this very thing. I don't
exactly.
have control over this, but let me
Mm,
tell you, I'm not happy.
exactly.
Why did you do this? So I was very expressive in those moments, and I felt righteously indignant.
It's a
And then I
brilliant
said,
book.
if you told me this was happening, I could have prepared. So I was, Sarah, I was anything but metaphysical and anything but spiritual.
We have those moments, and I call them they're emotions that need to be spent, but don't become emotional over them, right? Like spend it, apologize, take a deep breath, move on, right? But we need that. And I'm a true colors coach as well, which matches perfectly to the four characters in Who Moved My Cheese. And I think it's if we actually understand what personality trait we are, which is how we perceive and how we interact with people, from what state of being. I think then, we actually, the more we understand ourselves, the more we can participate in our own lives, and the more we can interact with other people more honestly and authentically by not trying to be what you think they want from you, but being who you are. They can take it or leave it. As I say to people, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I'm actually somebody's strong cup of black coffee, right? And I'm not going to be offended. Where I used to be, why don't you get me? No, I don't. You do or you don't. That's it.
Well, again, and going back to the book, there are people's, you talk about expectations. There are people that put their expectations on us and they're explicit.
Yes.
There are expectations that are put on us that are implicit that we're trying to figure out, but we're
Mm-hmm.
trying to live up to. Often we take those expectations, I have, and I put them on myself.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
now somebody else's expectations of me have become my expectations of me and
Yes,
are not authentic to me.
exactly.
It's me trying to be enough, me trying to
Yeah.
satisfy those expectations. So examining the expectations that I have placed on myself
Mm-hmm.
and going, wait a minute,
Mm-hmm.
I don't even want to be that person.
Nope.
So why am I doing this? Why am I living out of that?
Yeah.
What is authentic about that? What is, and then saying, okay, well, if I release those expectations, then what? And that's that moment of unknown. That's
Mm-hmm.
why there's a belief grid in the workbook where you list the 10 most influential people in your life. And across the top of the page are things like creativity, family, money, sexuality, all the beliefs. And you fill out the grid, right? And then you put it away for a couple of days and you take it out and you highlight those beliefs that you think you've taken on, which I call the human operating system.
Mm-hmm.
You've taken those beliefs on. And then the 11th column is you.
Mm-hmm.
And what is the belief that you want to replace that with? Because you have the power to change the belief. If you're going to change it, what's it going to be? And
We're
then
the
I say,
conductor of our own orchestra, folks.
then I like to say, then it's spiritual chiropractic,
Yes. Yes.
because you
Yes.
keep having to make the longer something's been out of whack, the
Yeah.
more you have to make the adjustment to bring it back. So that's beginning to look at the conversation that you're having with yourself in your
Mm-hmm.
mind about yourself
Exactly.
and how you talk to yourself and how you treat yourself. And that's also in the workbook. So
It's
there's
putting new programming back to erase old programming. Now, when our program on our phone doesn't work or on our computer or anything else that has kind of become old and obsolete simply doesn't work anymore, we go, okay, I need to replace it. But we carry around this old thinking, these old paradigms, going back to childhood or even DNA, ancestral memories that we bring with even past lifetimes. And we're carrying it. We don't understand. Why am I carrying this? I don't know what it is. It's to identify what is yours and what isn't, what you need to let go of, what you need to hold on to, and that to realize the world is going to get smaller as per se as to who's in it, what your participation in it, but in that concentration, it's going to be something that is but sorry folks, somebody else wanted to join the party. So I think when we look at our old programming, I used to bend myself into a pretzel, trying to be what everybody wanted me to be, just to please them. Oh, God, a sickening people pleaser at the sacrifice of myself, and completely lost who I was. But I knew I was a soul that was here for a purpose, here to ignite other hearts and souls. I knew that was my journey. I just didn't know how it fitted into humanity, because I kept looking at humanity going, what the? I'm going, how the hell do I fit into that? And because I was the people pleaser and coming from a place of heart and soul, what did I get drawn to? The people that were needy, the narcissists, the this and that. And they kept chewing me up and spitting me out. And I thought, why am I keep repeating this pattern? It's a different person, a different country, a different this. And it took a while for me to register the difference had to come from within me. I needed to change the programming here so that I was not going down that same path all the time. But we don't see that, we don't acknowledge that. And that's part of that journey that we have to take, is paying attention who we are as a human and who are we as a being. And how do those two come together to make the whole of us? And be willing to do the work. If you're not willing to do the work, you're not going to be whole.
Well, the work works. Um, but I have often said to clients, it's important to recognize when you need to take a break from the work.
Oh boy, is it. Mm-hmm.
Um, Whatever that break is, for me, it's what I call going mindfully unconscious, which is I'm going to watch black and white television for now.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be comforted by that black and white television,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm letting go of everything that I'm thinking about.
Yes.
The other thing is, when I was joking about Pilates, but when I do Pilates, you
Mm-hmm.
really have to be present or you'll get hurt. And
Yes.
so for me, that's an opportunity to take a break from the work, even though I'm working on my body.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think about anything else but what I'm doing in the moment,
You're
or I'll
being
get
present.
hurt. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
So,
I don't
but
think
I think
people
it's
actually
important to
understand.
know,
Yeah.
just as much as the work is important, is the self-care, is knowing when to stop. I mean, even
Yeah.
God rested on the seventh day.
Yes.
The tide goes out, it comes back. When it goes out, lay down on
Yeah.
the beach and wait. It'll be
Mm.
back, you know?
Well, I think, like we talked before about fear. And when you're in fear, what happens? You crunch. When you crunch, there's no chi, energy, oxygen, and clarity. Nothing is going through your body. Everything is switched off. So that's those deep breaths, align those chakras, open your body, take those deep breaths, be present in the breathing. And when you're present in that moment, the clarity comes. Right. But we cannot, if we're in a state of anxiety, because that anxiety has no reason, no rhyme. It's just going to stir it up even more. Right.
But I do believe, Sarah, you have to have reverence and respect for that anxiety.
Mm-hmm. Why
Like,
is it there? What's it
you
coming
have
from?
to embrace it, and you have to say, I need something right now. I'm afraid. I'm having anxiety. I don't
Mm-hmm.
make that anxiety wrong anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I say, okay, it's just like if you cut your finger, you feel pain so that you will take care of your finger.
Right.
So if I have anxiety or pain, something is calling for my attention, and therefore I need for myself
Mm-hmm.
to express reverence and say, okay, I'm having anxiety right now. I need to soothe myself. I need to hug myself. I
Mm-hmm.
need to care. Or sometimes I'll go to my partner and say, I need a hug right now.
Right.
I just need that,
Yeah.
the
Yeah. The oxygenation of self, right? I need,
yeah, I
yeah.
call it, how they talk about the thunder shirts for
Yes.
dogs and weighted blankets for people.
Mm-hmm.
That's that hug for me, is that okay, I'm in this moment. I'm embracing whatever is going on. That's what the hug means to me. I'm embracing, I'm vulnerable. I'm embracing, I feel weak. I'm in, whatever that is, I'm accepting of it so that I can
Hmm.
move through it.
And of course, if you are living alone, like me, and have to wait for my grandkids to come around and hug them to death, or abduct somebody's dog for a moment and give that a hug, it's you hug a tree, it's like find something. I sleep with a teddy bear. I've been on my own now for 15 years. I sleep with a teddy bear because I need something to hold on to,
But
something to
I
hug.
have my own feeling about that. I feel that sleeping with a teddy bear takes care of the child within,
Yes,
and that
yes,
child still lives
yeah. Oh,
and
yeah.
still needs our care.
It does.
Yep.
It does. And we stop running away from it. It sees things and feels things that we as an adult don't see. Pay attention to the inner child. There's a great deal of wisdom to come from that inner child.
Indeed. Indeed. Now, I allude to it in the book, but I don't do those inner child exercises in the book. I leave that to the therapist. Actually, I asked therapists to review the book
Hmm.
because I didn't want to send anybody over the edge. And
Right.
some of these exercises that are deep and intense, I talk about, you may want the assistance of a professional who's experienced in this
Hmm.
particular genre or field. Um, because to be receptive to that kind of help, that guidance where someone actually does have experience, it's like, well, I'm not going to fill my own tooth, you know?
Yeah, exactly. But what you're doing is preparing them to be aware that there's something in their way so they can seek the help. But sometimes people go seek help. What do you mean? And you need to kind of go through those other steps of realization. As hem and har and sniffy and and scary is realizing the trees is gone, and obviously you've got to do something about it, but you don't know what or where. And you're helping them kind of navigate through that so that when, okay, now I know where I'm at, I know what I need or whom I need, and now I need to seek that person out.
I want to, and I think I do. It was my intention to present obstacle as opportunity.
Hmm. Yep.
And I think that the book does that.
I
So
think, I don't look at the word failure. A lot of people, I failed. And I think, no, you were redirected. When something comes to a crescendo fail, it's just that we weren't paying attention to the cosmic nudge, nudge, wink, wink, and along comes the cosmic 2x4. And people call it a failure, and I just call it's a redirect. It's the end of this chapter that was forced upon you, and now you have to redirect in
I
another way.
I call I first of all, I have come to love failure.
Hmm.
I was sitting next to, usually not in the immediate moment. I was sitting next to someone and at a conference, and she goes, "Oh, I know you. I know you. You're blah 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 blah, and you did this and you did this and you did this." And I turned to her and I said, "Well, I think the reason you may know me is because I've had a few visible failures, you know, and I'm not afraid to
Hmm.
expose those failures." And I look, if there weren't night, you wouldn't appreciate day. If there weren't day, you wouldn't
Exactly.
appreciate night. And
Yes.
so if there isn't the failure and the lessons from that,
Yeah.
then it's pretty challenging to value and have gratitude for the high points and the love that's in your life. You know,
Yeah, I mean,
to
we're not given things out of punishment. I deal with a disability. I just call myself a differently abled person. There's things I know I cannot do. I don't focus on that. I focus on the things I am able to do. And I think, okay, that everybody's got a challenge that we carry with us. And it's a challenge that maybe we can go head on and deal with, or maybe it's just something we have to learn to navigate, live with, and keep in balance. And it's understanding that challenge isn't out to get you or destroy you. It's out there to strengthen you and show you all those other abilities and resilience and everything else that you have that's within you.
there's a gentleman named Carson Tuller, Tueller, that I follow on Instagram or TikTok or one of those things. And he had an accident and he's confined to a wheelchair. This morning he was talking about, it looked like eye drops. He was talking about And he said, I usually do uplifting posts and all that, but I'm telling you, I'm really angry and really mad right now. This little bottle was stuck in the track of my sliding door. And I spent 20 minutes trying to get it out with my crippled hand and my thing and bending over. You see, my face is swollen right now because I spent so much time bent over in the wheelchair to try and fix that. And he said, now I'm not saying that I couldn't call anyone in the neighborhood to come over and help. My sister lives nearby. She could come over and help. He said, but this small thing I wanted
Yeah.
to take care of. And I am so angry. And then it cuts and then he comes back. He goes, so I'm calmer now. I have my objectivity. But the humanity that he was showing
Mm.
over the frustration over this
Yes.
challenge, which was this tiny little thing,
Uh-huh.
and him in his wheelchair trying to bend over and to deal with it and deciding whether it was significant enough to call someone to say, hey, could you come over and take
Yeah.
it out of my track, or whether it was something he really needed to do for himself. So those challenges, fortunately, unfortunately for me, I am someone because of my trust things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm going to handle this myself. And by the way, my partner every day says, how can I help?
Yeah.
And it's like, that is the universe saying you need to accept help. I'm
Exactly.
like, I can do it myself. I can
You've
do it
got
myself.
you've got somebody that cares. I,
Go
I
away. I
understand.
can do it
Yeah.
myself. I
Yeah.
can do it myself.
Yeah.
So those challenges are also those opportunities where you can decide how you will handle those challenges. I also say you brought up something, I had a client who wanted to be a professional baseball player and never got to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to him, there is something in the world that will give you that same sense of
Mm-hmm.
feeling and
Mm-hmm.
accomplishment.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look and begin to discover what that may be.
Exactly.
So even though that dream that you
Mm-hmm.
had, you're 50 now, so you could play senior baseball if you want,
Mm-hmm.
but the feeling that you were going to get from that may be available in senior baseball, but it's probably available somewhere else in your life. Let's use the coaching program now to discover what that might be.
That's what self-discovery is all about. The wisdom is there to guide us and download and help, channel us along the way. But it's that self-discovery. Okay, this chapter has come to an end, or I didn't achieve that. You know,
You
I
know,
I
I had
I
a client, she was forced to retire
mm-hmm.
and she was still vital.
Yeah, it's just
And
a redirect.
she didn't know and I'm sure she doesn't mind me talking about this. I think I have the book somewhere. Yes. So we're talking, right? The universe sends interesting
Mm-hmm.
signals during challenging times.
Yes.
So we're talking, and I said, so what have you done lately? And she said, oh, well, I did this tour of the 88 temples on the island of Shikoku, the Buddhist temples. And she said, because I was working in Japan, I knew I was going to leave Japan and I was not going to be able to come back. And as a work. So she wanted to do everything she could. So I said, really, that sounds interesting. She goes, oh, yes. I wrote a little pamphlet, a little book that includes my pictures for my friends and family so they could know what my experience was. I said, oh, could you send that to me? This is what the coaching program is about.
Right.
I said, oh, could you send that to me? And she sent it to me. And our next session, I said, do you know what a beautiful writer you are?
Mm-hmm.
No, 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 I
Mm-hmm.
can't write. I don't write. I just, no, 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 no. No, you are. I said, maybe this is the possibility for you to expand this because the principles that you're talking about in the book, you as a Catholic discovering the bridges and having insights into Buddhism and Catholicism and discovery and whatnot. I say, I think this is something for you to really look at. I think that there is a book here.
There it is. Shikoko.
It's Shikuku, Wisdom for the Wayfarer by Yvonne Corpuz. It is an absolutely beautiful book. And it came out of that challenge,
Mm-hmm.
which is what do I do now? And
Exactly.
it's and by the way, every time we needed something, an art director showed up,
Mm-hmm.
an editor showed up. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this is like completely meant to be. And there are little things I tell myself, be bountiful with your love, unstinting with your kindness, extravagant in your appreciation. Let goodness like a river flow. For having known the wondrous benevolence of God, the source, of source, of the universe. How can you be anything but generous? So she shares these little revelations that she
Right.
has written and had. This is a perfect example of coming up against a challenge, coming up against what do I do now? Now that they quote, they have taken away what I do really well,
Right.
what do I do?
How do I
And
transfer it?
beginning
Right.
to recognize
Hmm.
the signal or the prompt from the universe and to follow that prompt and then get a result, which is an absolutely beautiful, beautiful book, beautifully written and incredibly inspiring.
I think one of the things we need to understand is that as the human, we want things to happen in this time. I see it, I want to do it, it needs to happen at this time. I produced a book last year called Our Forgotten Children, an anthology around the raising of our children, the systems that are broken, and how we can empower our children and families. The next book is Our Forgotten Seniors. It took 5 years to do that book, to bring it together. And I call them podcast books because they're aligned with podcast summits, etc. And all the people I thought were going to be in it, when it came time, like the universe, I go, now, now, no, 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 now, now, no. And then all of a sudden, all the people that I asked said no, but all the people I was interviewing at that time that had been sent to me were all perfect for the book. And so here the book became, and it will be the same with Our Forgotten Seniors. I wanted it out already. But it will happen when those people who see what it means, when it's that invitation to them, I want to be a part of this for what it stands for. And you can't rush that. You can't demand, I want it now, I want it then, I want it this. It is send out the invitation by the inspiration and let people feel it. I don't want people who can do it. I want people who can feel it. So I think one of the things we've got to let go of is this sense of time and accomplishment. If I'm 50, I've got to be this. I've got to have that. I've got to do that. Right? I'm 70. I
You
started
look
this.
great.
Filters on Zoom. I started this 13 years ago, podcasting, and in June will be 12 years of my own network. When I was first asked to join someone's network to do podcasting, I had no idea what podcasting was. I did it live for 13 months. I called it the soap opera training. If everything could go wrong, it went wrong. Right. But it was a great training and I got hooked. I got hooked by the stories I heard. I got hooked by the resilience and the love and the passion and the compassion and the abilities and the tools and the inspiration that were there. And now 3,700 plus shows and almost 12 years later for my own network, it's it's my calling. I don't necessarily make money from that because I do it by donation. But for me, it has enriched me and made me feel abundant. And as I talked about earlier, I'm bringing you the instrumentalists in my orchestra, right? Maybe you need to hear the violinist right now. Maybe you need to hear the drummer, but they're there for you, right? The illumination is just a click away. And so I think do not ignore that feeling get in your core that says, just do it, just follow, just go, just take that leap, just walk that path. Get out of your head, say, yes, but are you too old? Who will listen to him? Let that voice go and talk to the wind and follow that conviction inside of you. It's, as I said, blind, deaf, and dumb in order to hear, see, and feel. It's trust in that universe, trust in whatever God you believe in. That's the wisdom I talk about that will always lead you forward. It will lead you forward from the soul. It will ignite your heart into truth. It will lead your spirit into action for your mind to find the clarity it needs when it needs it.
All I can say to that is I bring that down to follow the prompt.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just follow the prompt. Like if I get an inkling about something, the way the workbook came about
Mm-hmm.
was I went to lunch with a friend of mine who has been a friend of mine for 25 years and does public relations. And I said to her, look, I've revised the book and I've done an audio book. And she said, no one is going to have an easy time promoting a book that's 12 years old.
Mm-hmm.
You ought to do a workbook.
Yeah.
There was the prompt. That was
Yes.
it. And I was like, she's right. And then my next response was, oh my God, that's going to be so much work.
I know. We
And it
always kind
was.
of, and yeah, and the thing is, it's like, childbirth. I've had three, um, and
I've had none.
they were awful pregnancies. As one doctor said to me, you're allergic to pregnancy. I mean,
Oh
really
dear.
awful. But they said, but knowing you had such a bad time last time, why are you doing it again? I said, because of the end result. It's worth going through all of this for the end result. And that's sometimes you've got to get uncomfortable to find where the comfort is.
I think in moments of discomfort, again, opportunity.
Absolutely.
I try to, someone once said to me, oh, you're an optimist. And I was like, no, I'm not. Because I always go to the worst case scenario first. I have to train myself to go in the opposite direction, but saying, there's a great book by Ryan Holiday called The Obstacle is the Way. And he gives like case studies of famous people throughout history who have
Mm-hmm.
encountered obstacles and what they did with those obstacles. And it's like, for me, it's not just about the prompt. I have to have go-to sources of inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
I have these books here. Here's the Tao Te Ching. There's my own book. Here's Self-Compassion by Kristen Neff, and The Keys of Enoch. I have these books that I go to for inspiration, and they lead me. It's like if I'm in this void of like coming out of a meditation and stuff, the answers are somewhere there. I'll hear, just like when I was reading Kristen Neff's book and it recommended loving kindness. That
Mm-hmm.
was a prompt,
Mm-hmm.
that those sources of inspiration will deliver the prompt if I haven't heard it somewhere else.
Exactly. The key is pay attention to the prompt. Now, the prompt
Absolutely.
doesn't mean it be it do it now. It is the beginning. It is the journey that comes with that prompt. And sometimes it's a short, sweet journey, and sometimes it might be long and arduous. But it's and don't dictate how you want the ending to be. It's just follow the path and create along the way. It will always be so much bigger and better than you imagined it to be.
I love it in readings when I will say something like, what do you have any affinity towards horses or riding or working with horses? And the client will say, I can't believe you just said that. I've been thinking about horses for the last month. I used
Mhm.
to ride them as a child, and I've been thinking about how much fun it would be or how nice it would be to ride it again. And I said, so it's a month now. Why aren't you listening?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. These messages aren't just tapping us
And
on
I
our
said,
shoulder for nothing.
and now you've created someone who's affirming what you
Yeah,
heard. So
exactly.
go do it.
Hey, I got the message for you because you're not paying attention to it. And that's what I call it, the nudge, nudge, wink, wink, or the cosmic two by four, right? So, it's we're never alone, ever on this human journey. And that wisdom is always traveling with us when we're ready to receive it. And sometimes we don't ask for it and it comes, and sometimes we ask for it and it may not come immediately, but it will always present.
I, I'm very fortunate in that I didn't think I was crazy when I was hearing voices. Well, I did, but I I called the Duke School of Parapsychology and to find out I was like 26. And they said, "No, you're not crazy. Would you like to come here and, do research with us?" No, I just wanted to know I wasn't crazy. But I have this guidance, these voices, and before I go to bed at night, I listen. But the question I always get from that source is, tell us how you're feeling right now.
Yeah.
Tell us how you're feeling right now. That's so important. And I say to people who are intuitive, I say, you know, the reason you can be intuitive is because it's a feeling and you've had every other feeling
Mhm.
first. So don't worry about being too sensitive.
Yes.
Acknowledge those feelings, have those feelings. When you have those feelings first, you're able to access your intuition.
I was born this way. So I used to play with dead people, entities. Why can't you see this person? Who are you talking to, Sarah? And what? it's Jane there. Why can't you see her? And I couldn't go through a graveyard without everybody speaking to me. And I had no understanding really of what it is I had. I just know that other people were weird about it. Yet, uh, uh, I, it wasn't a question of trying to hide it because it is who I was. And people would come to me for that wisdom, and I would know what I needed to know when I knew it, but I had no understanding what I knew or what I was revealing to them. It would just come out when it needed to be there. But then a lot of people after that didn't want anything to do with you because they didn't want people to know they had come and spoken to you. So
Yeah.
I kind of grew up with that. And it was, you know, I'm different. And then for so long, kind of feeling I didn't fit in because I'm too different. I need to be more like everybody else. And I couldn't be like everyone else because my soul and my heart told me I had to be this. And so it felt like that split personality. But I was never afraid of my soul talk, never afraid of it. I was more afraid of, the human demon type side of it. But it is interesting when we do allow those voices to come in. And as I said, you really do feel it at the core. So you know it's the truth. Um, it is a wonderful companion. And that's where you always know I may not get what I want immediately from you, but I'll always get what I need.
I just I think that I'm reminded constantly by that presence that I'm not alone.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
And it's a good place to be. And kind of this is what kind of puts us back together. We almost have to, I don't want to use the word dissect, but just kind of separate ourselves as to, as you said, the identity of what I'm doing, the identity of the perception of me, the identity of my own self-identity because of those perceptions and expectations, and kind of pull everything apart and go like, but is this personality still, serving me? If it isn't, what good can I take from that and apply it to something else that I really do feel more connected to? And taking that journey of self-discovery and discovering who am I now in this moment with what I know, with what I feel, what I'm passionate about, and how do I bring this forward on a new path, doing something new. But you have to look at all the other things first. And I say that society's expectation is what's wrong in the world because we're so busy living up to this expectation that we deny who we really are from the inside out. And that inside out is whole. We've just compartmentalized ourselves in a way that we don't live in the whole of us.
I would like to think that coming to whole is that's the natural state.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's always there. It's there when you leave it, it's there when you come back.
Yeah.
And therefore, yes, you get to do the work. But if something is already present, it's more about seeing it than working for it.
Revealing it. Mm-hmm. And I hate the word compete and compare because I think when we try and compare ourselves to other people, compete with other people, we're denying who we are. Yet it's our tendency as humans to compare and then compete. But if we can look at that and go, let that go, um, I'm enough who I am. But so who am I?
I, I, that whole comparison thing, I, I like to make the distinction that if you see someone, it's different to comparing is coming from I'm not enough.
Right.
Being inspired by that
Exactly.
person is a different
To
story. So,
emulate,
yeah. So
but
can
not
you
compare.
be
Mm.
inspired by what they're doing?
Yeah.
I think, wow, social media for it's like nuclear power for good or for evil.
Yes.
And people, it's been my experience, people aren't really presenting their true selves on social media most
Mm,
of the time because they're presenting a brand, they're presenting what
mm,
you see, and then you're comparing yourself to something that is not really happening.
yeah.
And you know, I call it, "Hey, look at me," and it's so transparent to me now. Not that I haven't done it in the past, but it's so transparent to me now that it's really not, hey, look at it's not, hey, look at me. It's please love me.
Mm. And, I'd say that before anybody's going to buy from you or work with you or have anything to do with you, they've got to feel who you really are. And, with this facade that we put out isn't a representation of who we are. Put yourself out unapologetically of who you are in your flawsomeness. We've all got beautiful flaws that have made us up who we are, but we can be awesome by owning those flaws. They've what made us this beautiful porcelain bowl today, put together back with love, right? And I'm not competing, I'm not comparing. I am Sarah. I don't want to be anyone else. They're taken. And I am what I am, as Popeye says. And you could take me or leave me. And that, I think, is a journey that when we get to that part in life where we can say it openly and honestly, then I think that it is something that we can know I'm at home with self. And to be at home with self is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself.
I wish I was there 100% of the time.
No, 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 no. It wavers.
Unfortunately,
It wavers. Yeah.
unfortunately, I would say maybe I'm at 65, 70% of the time. Because when I'm exploring something new, I'm so uncomfortable. And,
Mm-hmm.
today is a perfect example. Something ultimately wasn't working. And I finally saw that it wasn't working. And it's like, okay, so now I have to do the research. So I went bowling last week, and one of the people I was bowling with happens to be an expert in social media
Mm-hmm.
and very, very lovely. And basically kind of presented, we had a discussion. She kind of presented to me how it is, how it can be,
Mm-hmm.
things I wasn't really thinking of. I was
Mm-hmm.
efforting too much.
Mm-hmm.
And then today I began to do the research and find out the ways that I could do this. And it's almost like the universe has come in to kind of,
Mm-hmm.
and I hate to sound so woo-woo, but the universe has come in to grease the slides.
Yes.
So there's a lot less
Oh,
friction
you're on the right
now.
track.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a lot less friction now
Yeah.
in the discovery. It doesn't mean there won't be work to do, and it doesn't, but now I understand the nature of it. Whereas before I was, I didn't want to do it and I was opposed to it. And I just had a lot of opinions that were wrong. And so,
It's not about the sensationalism, it's about the rhythm. And if people can always see your posts and know that that is the rhythm, that is the vibration, you're always in flow, you're always in rhythm with whatever you're presenting, then they know that they're getting the authentic you. But if you're
well,
putting things out for sensationalism, you're putting out for the wrong reason.
the video part is easy. I can just do that in the
Mm-hmm.
car, and it's a lot of fun, and that's easy. It's all the other stuff that's around it, the post every day, and not and wanting to make sure that, I mean, I was a brand strategist for years. That's what I did for a living. So the authenticity is really important to me. The way it's presented is really important to me. Um, but it's marketing,
Mm-hmm.
it's sales. And the part of people that say, life is a sales job, you kind of like have to balance between wanting to get that message out, knowing that that message is beneficial, and having it somehow break through the noise. And I have to be honest, I'm working that out right now.
And having done this a long time and interviewed a lot of brand and marketing people, and from myself over the experience that I've had with it, when you put aside a certain amount of time a week or a day, your choice, to be interactive with other people on social media, to follow, to comment, to engage, to further the conversation. That is the invitation. People want to know that they are actually talking to somebody that's on the same
Yeah.
wavelength or that they're
Yeah.
getting the same thing. It isn't, I post my shows, yes, across many social medias, always with, what they're all about. That is the posting side of it. But I'll be watching someone's thread and they're talking about X, Y, and Z. And I say, I've done a show on that. And maybe this might be something to help you. And I post the show in it.
Yeah.
And it's that
Yeah.
interaction. And I think this is one thing that so many people have lost the thing. If you've got 2 seconds to grab somebody's attention. I don't want their attention. If all they can give me is 2 seconds, I'm not going to be able to give them the content they need in that time.
Yeah.
So we've got to stop being people that are chasing instant gratification
Well,
and
that's the
slow down
thing
and breathe.
is that's the thing is that I am not a chaser.
Nope.
And
Nope. I'm an
so,
inviter.
yeah, so yeah. But it's really interesting because to me, the thing that excites me in life is learning. Always
Yes.
has.
Yes.
So whether I'm learning something about that's metaphysical or whether I'm learning to use new software creatively, like I'm not going to lie, I have become a master of AI.
I love it.
Knowing how to, because I'm a writer,
Hmm.
and because words are have value and they have subtlety and nuance and all those different things, being able to write a prompt that includes the nuance to get the result that I think is important, then being able to take that result, craft that, or use that result to inspire something else.
Yeah.
Um, Absolutely a blast. I have, and I'm constantly learning new ways to phrase things. And
Yeah.
as they keep improving things, I keep improving my approach.
Right.
So I love that learning. I there is such an example. I'm more relaxed in that learning
Mm.
than I am in other areas, like learning about myself. I'm not that relaxed, I'm like in anticipation, and that's fine. This
You
is,
get there, right? And
yeah.
it'll get easy and easier as you go.
If
I
I
in
didn't journal, I wouldn't get there at all.
Right.
So,
Well, like me, kind of my shows every week are a form of my journaling. But what I did a few weeks ago is I interviewed Chat GBT.
oh, fun!
And I tell you
That is
something
excellent.
that, I have her voice and I have the transcript, I have everything, and I put it out in a show. I was blown away by the interaction. I would say that the conversation we had is better than some of the people I've interviewed, right? And it was so, I don't know, so comforting. I've used it on a few shows when I do my own, like chat, what do you think of this? What do you think of that? And had that interaction. But I was blown away by the conversation. I really was.
Yeah, it's very yeah, if you know what to ask,
Mm,
because it has access to all, but my only objection to it is it takes a lot of energy and it puts out a lot of waste in terms of data centers and compute power and generating heat. It's not the best thing for the environment.
no, no. Which I
Um,
think, along the line, if Deep Seek can do it, which is on a platform which is using less energy, but we know, can we trust it because it's open source and all of that, but that just means that the other way, everything that is kind of new will find ways to improve on itself, and that's
I
you know
have I have tremendous faith in humanity's resilience and its ability to navigate change. But, and I know this is going to sound really weird, I have experienced enough death slash rebirth,
mm,
and I have worked with terminal patients and their families. And certainly, I don't want to suffer in death, but it doesn't frighten me.
yeah, no,
And endings are beginnings or transformation. There's
yes,
always transformation,
yes,
transition. And so, without that fear,
mm,
there's a clarity that I get. So,
hmm
you know, unfortunately, we are also highly adaptable. So if we don't fix climate change, we'll have to adapt.
otherwise
And
Mama Earth is going to evict us.
yeah, well, I'll tell you, the experience of watching the behavior of a fire,
Mm,
to me, it was an animate being.
yeah,
It felt like it had personality. It felt like it had destiny.
hmm
It was just, I saw it, and I've never said this to anybody, and now I'm saying it to an audience. I I saw it as a living, breathing being.
which it is. It's an entity of its own. We look at the elements and we think they're just elements. No, they're entities of their own. And when we look at that and we respect that, right, then we can cohabit. But when it's out of control, it's step out of the way because you ain't gonna beat it, right?
Well, it's so I drove up into this is the first time I did this yesterday. I drove up into our one of the neighborhoods in our town that
Hmm.
was closer to we're in the interface, we're right up against the mountain. It was actually in the mountain. And I marveled at the randomness of it.
Yes.
Like
How some
one
houses
house
could be
had
standing
burned and
still.
then
Yeah,
next,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And I was like, same thing with hurricanes. I've watched that happen. I've watched it happen with Hurricane Sandy over my own house
Mm-hmm.
in South Jersey. Um, and it's just, there is that greater thing at work that you cannot explain.
Well, I'll give you a
You can
story on that.
experience it, but you can't
Yeah.
explain it.
My house caught fire,
Oh,
and part of it, burnt away, and anyway, after the firemen, I remember standing outside there saying, please don't take the memories, the photographs, don't take the memories.
hmm,
And then after the fire, um, the fireman said, I want to show you something. This is very, very weird. And the roof had collapsed in at certain areas. The windows were all black. And on the walls were the pictures of my children, my mother, they're this and that, all intact. The glass hadn't even gone black,
hmm,
right? All the photographs where the photo albums were, that room had started the fire and it burnt on the side going up like this, but it didn't touch the albums, didn't
pretty
touch
remarkable.
photographs. And the guy said, I've never seen anything like this before.
Hmm,
These should have all cracked and broken and this and that, and they haven't. And I
hmm.
said, because I asked the universe to protect them. So don't underestimate the power of either prayer or speaking to the universe, whatever it is that you
Well,
want to
you
do,
know
and
what?
asking.
As I drove away, my mother always used to say it's just stuff. By the
Mm-hmm.
way, I have all the photographs digitized, so I was
Yeah, but
able
this
to
was this was
grab them at the time.
93. We weren't
Yeah.
digitizing them then. Now they are.
But as I drove away, I thought, you know what? If everything is lost,
Yeah.
I'll be okay. I,
You're okay. You're alive. And that's the thing.
yeah.
It's I think the worst thing is memories, like things can be replaced. I'm an antique person, so I love the history of antiques. I love the energy from them. But in that house, I had theft, I had floods, I had fire, I had a divorce. So it was everything. So it was like, okay, all right, I get the message. Endings needed to happen for new beginnings. So kept giving us an opportunity. We didn't accept it in that way, but that's the thing, is that it isn't out to get you. It's out to show you a different path. If we step into our resilience, have a good cry, have a good grieving, you've got to do that. But then step into our resilience and be willing to take that journey forward. In trust, the biggest leap you'll take is the first step. Be willing to take that step forward, even though you have no idea where you're going. And, when you talked about fear earlier, I have a little theory on fear. We have the common sense fear that keeps us out of trouble. Don't go into
Yes.
the fire.
I say
Don't
that
walk
all
in
the
front of a
time. I say
bus.
the bus is barreling down on you. Fear will get you out of the street.
Exactly. So that common sense fear is instinctually inside of us. But instead of looking at the unknown and being fearful about it, how about change it to wonderment, exploration? Oh, what's behind this? I'm eager to go, and fear keep me safe along the way. I've opened so many doors in my life that I had no idea what was on the other side. A little barrel through them. I've lived in many countries. I've done many things. I've jumped into many things. Sometimes fire when I shouldn't have been there. But it was always with that desire to explore. I see something, I feel something, I need to go there. Whether it was meant to come to fruition or not, it was what experience did I get out of it that was then for the next door.
I think,
Life is about your journey.
yeah, I think sometimes I haven't taken a step forward as much as I've been pushed forward,
Mm-hmm.
and didn't look like I had a choice, but on a deeper level, I obviously chose that.
Yeah.
Um, and you talk about the memories. The house that I had in New Jersey was a family house, and I knew when it was sold that it was going to be torn down because that's what they were doing in that whole community,
Yeah.
tearing down old houses and building new ones for no good reason at all, except they
Right.
wanted to do it. And I have a guy who's like a brother to me. And he said, every time I drive by there, I just cry. I said, so here's what I'm going to tell you. That house exists in your mind
Mm-hmm.
and it will always be there. Stop driving by,
Yes.
use your imagination, and know that in some reality that house still exists. And by the
Hmm.
way, close your eyes and walk in the front door just like you always did,
Yeah.
because that memory is there and it's solid.
Hmm.
And I can remember in a house that I was in for a long time, I absolutely loved the bedroom of that house. I felt safe. Even I was burgled in that house
Hmm.
while I slept,
Ah.
and they took a pillowcase off the pillow to take the booty, and I didn't wake up.
Oh my
And
God.
but even after that, I still felt great in that room.
Hmm.
And so when I'm shaky or I'm not feeling solid, in my meditation, I take myself into that bedroom and I'm
Hmm.
back in that bedroom, feeling safe. I recreate it around me. It's just as real then as it might be when I was in it, because I've been able to nurture that memory and I can
Yeah.
see the colors and I can see the things in the room. Even things I didn't remember now show up in that room
Hmm.
that I
Hmm.
forgot were there. So it's there, it's in there.
Yes.
So anything that you've experienced is in there. But I always think, the beach I walked along as a child, sometimes I just close my eyes in my meditation, I'm walking along that beach.
Yep.
I
Yep.
still have those things, even though I'm not there.
But that's what the beauty of memories is. And that's why, unfortunately, dementia and Alzheimer's is one of the cruelest diseases because it takes those memories away. But, that's what, as you get older, you appreciate those memories more because they show a life lived, experiences had. I have literally met people who've never left their town, never gone anywhere. Here on Vancouver Island is an hour and a half ferry over to the mainland. And there's one woman I was talking to the other day, and the last time she went to the mainland was 2015. She hasn't even gone up to Victoria. I'm in Nanaimo. It's just everything is here. They don't go anywhere. They don't do anything, which I don't relate to because I've been everywhere. But it's the memories that we build and that we hold on to that makes us experience life. And it's how are we going to get up and experience life? That's what it's about. What am I here to learn? What am I here to do? Who am I here to be? And how am I here to share whatever it is, the gift I've been given that's going to help humankind? People ask me, who do you interview? And I go, all those that come from the heart. It's not about what they do, it's about why they do it and whom they're doing it for.
When they asked, when I talked to Philip, my PR person, I said, look, my goal is to just get this book in as many hands as possible. I don't want to be the guru. I don't want to be out there, taking people's power away. That's not what this book is about. That's not what I'm about.
Mhm.
But I just want, my intention is that this book get into the hands of as many people as possible that it can inspire. That's it.
And it's like these podcasts, my motto is this: listen, learn, and apply. There's something you've listened to that you've learned that if you apply it to your life, that's going to shift something for you in the right direction. And it's the same with your book. They can read the book all the way through. There could be one thing that sticks out in them that goes, oh, this is it for the moment. Right. And then you go back later and there's something else there. The whole thing is the big word: you've got to participate in your own journey, in your own learning, in your own self-discovery. It's nobody's doing it for you. They can hand you these tools and this and cheerleading and inspiration and helping you along the way, but it's your journey to walk. You've got to walk it.
Yep. I don't think you always have to walk it alone, which is
No.
how I used to think. And now I think I just welcome in collaborators, supporters,
Yes.
uh, whatever happens to show up.
You're
Uh,
building your orchestra. Now, having said that, because I realize, we've been talking a while, which is great because there's so much that we've uncovered here. How do people get hold of your book? If people are inspired by this and they want to reach out and talk to you about being a client, excuse me,
my
how do
goodness,
they do
God bless you.
it? That one wasn't going to go anywhere. How to be out. How do people find you? How do they sign up?
So, on the website is wholelifebook, all one word.com. On the website are links to purchase the book. You can join the mailing list. The socials are there. It seems the most active community is going to be on Facebook, which is
Hmm.
Facebook/ hold the book. Um, we are starting to form, we're experimenting right now, forming support groups for people doing the workbook because it's much easier to work out with other people than it is alone.
Yes, exactly.
So we're exploring that. I've asked the same. When I wrote the book, I asked for 50 volunteers from my client list to do the exercises along with me as I wrote them, give
Mm.
me their feedback, and it was a wonderful experience. Each of these
Hmm.
people have said the book was life-changing, which is what the purpose was.
Right.
And so I've asked from that group of volunteers again to do these groups with me so we can see how we can form groups that can support the community. Um, we talked about making things interactive. We've actually taken the workbook and created a series of mini exercises
Hmm.
that you can do without the workbook. Those exercises will show up on the social media platforms, probably Instagram and Facebook. We're just getting started with that. Um, and then if you want to know more about me, you can go to briansethhurst.com. There's aspects of my performing career there. There's a YouTube channel, Brian Seth Hurst, where you can see me. You can see the show I do. Um, and if you want a reading or you want to be part of the coaching program, there's information of the coaching program at wholelifebook.com and also at briansethhurst.com. And you can just fill out the email form and I will get your message. Tell me what you need or what you want. When it comes to the coaching program, you get interviewed first. We interview each other
Hmm.
to decide if the program is right for you, what you want to accomplish from it. And then when you start that coaching program, you get some 68 questions that you have to answer before the program starts.
Hmm.
I use my intuition for that program. Some of the exercises that are in the book come out of the program. Um, but then we start out from those questions because I can read between the lines.
Yes.
Your answers to those questions have value far beyond what you think
Yeah.
in that answer. Um, yeah, and that's it. So wholelifebook.com is probably where you'll get the most. The audiobook is available on Audible. And the whole workbook and whole book, I actually have them here. Couple podcasts, I've had to look stuff up. So here's the book. It looks different. The cover is different on Amazon because that whole bunch of rules I had to obey.
Hmm.
Um, but you can get the books at Lulu and at Amazon, and most ebook platforms carry the whole book. They don't carry the workbook
Right.
because it is a workbook and you work it. I've had people say, "Well, I got the workbook and I'm not filling it out. I've got a whole journal, a whole notebook I'm using because I'm going to use the workbook once a year." I'm like, "Great. However it works for you is fine with me."
Yes. Without talking about that together and inviting people to come and share, I always say to people, have a podcast party. Everybody listen to a podcast, take notes, share those notes afterwards. Now you're going to get a whole picture on it because you're getting different points of view, different perspectives, and sharing those all out. You've now got a smorgasbord to go from rather than just one perspective. And, that's the same thing you're doing with the Facebook and having people come along and share, and that ignites something in somebody else. Oh, yes, I relate to that. Oh, I must try that. That's the whole thing about the interaction and the conversation and the sharing and then the applying. And that is where we're going to actually be there to help each other. Just as you said before with the fire, who do I help? You help one that helps another, that helps another, that helps another. But it's forming that platform that is the root of the helping that ignites other people to want to be helpers along the way as well.
It's been inspiring to me how
Mhm.
people have responded to the book. Um, Readings are always inspiring to me when I do these sessions because I'm learning from everyone I do.
Mhm.
It's funny this afternoon I do a Jennifer McLean's Masterworks Healing. The third Monday of every month. It's a membership site. I do readings on that call, and
Mhm.
they're like this. They call a number on the caller, I jump right in. It still marvels me. I get names of there's no time to think about anything.
No,
So
but that's the best.
you just do the
Yeah.
reading and then you move on to the next person, you
Yeah.
move on to the next
You're
person.
so present, right?
Yeah. And it's so much fun and it's a community and you can actually feel the
Mm,
community during the call. And
hmm.
so if someone's having a hard time and Jennifer will ask for energy from the community, you can actually feel that energy
Yeah.
supporting that person. It's pretty cool. It's actually
Yes,
cool.
I call it, for me, call it kind of the white light. When you know somebody's in trouble and you can't be there, send them the white light, the white energy,
Yeah.
the divine energy to them. And just like a prayer, they feel it, they don't know where it's coming from, and the more that we do that, to one person, all of a sudden that energy is being shifted within them or their circumstance, right? So do not underestimate that power of that beautiful energy shared. So I could carry on talking to you forever, but I guess we do have to pull a plug here somewhere. It's been an absolute delight. I'm so glad you took your journey. And this is one of the things I love the most is people that are in our kind of age bracket, anything from 50 to 70 or older, um, that have got, okay, that chapter, that success is over. All right. That I don't need to identify with that as being me. It's what I did and I did well. But however, there's something else in me that I want to do and I'm going to pursue it. And you're never too old. You're never too young, but you're also never too old. So do not put these, barriers up. We can all have boundaries, but don't put barriers up. Just be exploratory and see where it's going to take you, because that's part of the fun of living,
Yeah.
exploring. Thank you
Like I
so much.
said, never listen to my mother when she said, don't do that.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
Curious George, right? Definitely. Thank you so much for sharing here today. It's been absolutely fun. And
it
to
was my
everyone out there,
pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. What a joy this was. I
mm,
really had a good time.
it's wonderful. And don't forget to share, folks. Don't forget to converse about it. Don't forget to get the book. Don't forget to join the Facebook page. If we don't interact, we don't continue the energy. So please make sure that you do interact and participate, because this is what it's here for. So until next time, folks, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. There are so many more for you here on selfdiscoverywisdom.com. Just go to the podcast tag at the top there and you will see all the many genres and all 3,000 shows ready for your listening. We are here to serve you, to help you on your journey of life, and we know that through inspiration it begets invitation. We are supported by you, the listeners, and those that we interview. Anything that you can spare us in donation would be greatly accepted, and we do hope that you enjoy the next show.